Your show.
Okay.
You're the pro.
Well, I don't know about pro yet, but we'll get there. Um, yeah, so let's just fire away. So, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chatter. Today, I am delighted to be joined by Kevin Malone from not Kevin Malone Wealth, just Malone Wealth, the CEO and president. Man, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Josh. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. I mean, I was absolutely thrilled that you said yes to the interview. I like you. You're one of the few people that I've seen in the financial world that's an active investor, that's not just like a retail investor, that has like openly stated, yes, okay, we're long on GME, and you've actively called out a lot of the stuff that people have been complaining about on Super Stonk and Wall Street Bets before it, and all the many iterations of it that we now have. So it's an absolute pleasure to get to chat to you, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's scary posting about that stuff. Billionaires are scary people to go up against, but someone's got to say something. And there's not a lot of people in the finance world that are willing to.
Yeah, I mean that's the disappointing part, really. So why don't we start with the first the first time you came across GameStop as a potential investment opportunity?
Okay. It was late March to early April 2020 when the whole world was like just smashed with COVID, like that full month of February leading in to the beginning of April. And I'm just scrolling stocks on FinViz, just a stock screener. I'd probably look at about 2, 3 hours a day, just all the news articles and companies, what's moving, what's not moving. And on there, it said that GameStop was 99% short. I'm like, what? And it's like showing up in their public data. And I'm like, there's no way. And so I started digging into it. At the time, I'm pretty sure it was over that. Like we found out in January 2021, there was more than that, but I think FinViz number only goes to 99% short.
Hmm.
And so I'm looking at it, reading the data, and call my brother, who's also an advisor, and I'm like, dude, GameStop's 99% short right now. Like one news article, it's going to go up hundreds of percent if anyone has to cover this. And so I started buying clients in there, $4 a share, pretty split $1 a share now. And I'm like, this is such a small risk to high reward on something that's shorted that I decided it was a perfect play for the usually like 5% aggressive portfolio size for clients. So I bought a lot and I bought a lot more and I kept buying every month. I was buying. And right when I found it, I just started searching the web, like, what's going on? It's 99% shorted. That's when I discovered Keith Gill going over all the stuff on Wall Street Bets. And I'm like, this guy knows too. And we didn't find out until later that he was also in the financial industry until after the sneeze. And so I started reading, I'm posting front and back with Keith and Rod on stock twits and Wall Street Bets and trying to show everyone that like just one thing good happens and this thing's going to explode. And then I'm sitting in Jiffy Lube getting an oil change, and a news article comes across my phone that says Ryan Cohen buys massive stake in GameStop. I'm like, no way. It's making my hair stand up right now. I'm like, no way. And I'm just watching my phone. And I'm like, this is massive. Like $6, $9 after we bought in. And then at that time, Wall Street Bets finally like saw it. Like the million people that were on there at that time were like, okay, let's figure out who Ryan Cohen is, all this stuff. And he's just a guy that builds companies. And everyone gets stoked. And then Cohen just goes off on the board, writing letters like, you guys need to change everything or you're going bankrupt. And GameStop, unlike some of the other companies that Cohen's contacted, said, yeah, let's do it. And I really feel it's because GameStop CEO at the time had a massive position in there that he wasn't selling. Like he would trim for taxes or like just income to live on. But he had millions of shares of GameStop stock, the CEO at that time. And so I felt he didn't want to go bankrupt and have all these shit. Like his net worth was in there. And from there, sneeze is history, but you know, my in uh, my branch, I was working for Edward Jones at the time, and my branch was a top 10 holder of GameStop stock in the world.
Nice.
My branch, just and people
Just your
on
branch.
Reddit and everything are like, well, Edward Jones management is $1.3 trillion. I was like, no, just my clients have that much, and which was probably 99% of the position at Edward Jones because they were the only other ones were like grandmas that bought GameStop certificates for their kids 20 years ago or something. And I just kept buying it up when it was down there and any dip, go to 14 down to 11. Like, let's add some more here. Let's add some more here. And then when the sneeze happened, I mean, I had I think 158 voicemails in 2 days from clients and their family members and their family members. And like I shut off my phone because I couldn't manage the positions for them because they're blowing me up. And so they ended up getting, I think the highest sell was at 9,000% gain for them in 6 months. And it was just, I couldn't believe it. Like I had my limits set originally for like $50 a share when I was buying at like $5 a share before. Nobody knew about the crime besides over shorting. It was just theoretical. And I'm like, like 1,000% returns. Like that'd be solid. That'd be way too overvalued. You'd want to trim here. And
Yeah.
then as I got closer there and you're seeing like $20 a day moves, I'm like, this thing can just slingshot so much farther past that. And sure did.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit. Like, you almost went another 1,000%, actually, technically, right? From that.
Yeah, from
Yeah.
there,
From
yeah,
there.
to the
That's what. Yeah.
500, yeah, to 10,000% total. Unreal.
That's absolutely wild. Still crazy to think about. Like I remember watching it, and it still doesn't seem like it really happened sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like, it changed the world. It was the most common household name company
Yeah.
in most of 2021.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Like,
still, when I talk to people about and say, "Look, I'm writing this book," they most of them remember. Like, even though it's like things can happen in the public consciousness and like people don't notice or like don't realize it. Like sometimes I struggle to tell what's like on the internet and what crosses
yeah,
and then not even that then what's in like niche bits of the internet that then like seems huge but doesn't cross over like Tucker Carlson's firing, resigning, whatever. I asked a
mhm.
bunch of people that I know about it, and they were like, "Who's Tucker Carlson?" And like on my Twitter feed was just nothing but like posts about that. And then I
Mhm.
asked someone outside of the sphere, and they're like, "Who the fuck is that?"
Yeah,
But like GameStop is always people always remember, which is really crazy to me. So you mentioned then during that the first time that you had that was one of the first times you'd like sort of realized maybe or like looked into like over shorting and that as a possibility as something. So had you were you like
yeah.
like how aware were you of the concept of like short selling, naked short selling, and like a short squeeze? Like did you, because most people had never heard of that term or any of these
Oh,
terms.
absolutely. Short
Obviously
squeeze, I
yeah.
was aware of. I was looking for them constantly as anomalies for really small position size for clients that could, 2, 3x
Yeah.
on their position. And I was always looking for them. I was studying them. I had like Excel sheets of how many days these short squeezes would go because, like on FinViz, you can see the top gainers and losers of the days. And I used to like take the top 10 gainers of that day and then check them the next day and then check them the next day. And I could tell which ones were in a squeeze, looking at the short interest and all that. So I was very accustomed to short squeezes back then before it even happened, but knew nothing about the like naked shorting. I knew it had to exist somewhere. There's always crime and hedge funds and everything like that, but had no idea the magnitude of synthetic shares and FTDs and everything like that.
Yeah.
It just blew my mind that the whole industry was like this.
Yeah, like was it Super Stonk and like Wall Street Bets that really turned you onto that, or was it like other sources?
Supersonic was massive. I mean, the DD that was coming through there was absolutely insane. And having hundreds of thousands of people, or probably 100,000 compared to the bots, um, looking for anomalies out there on one ticker, one company name at all times, nuts. And then all those people were also looking at crime and actually reading the 13F reports and all the filings. And there's so many things that don't get past them now. And they really brought out, I mean, say the majority of the info I know now about the crime in the background probably came from there with the system plumbing, where I take a piece from there and start researching it myself.
Yeah. So yeah, how widespread do you think things like naked short selling are in the market? Because like right, because one of the things that's constantly on my mind whenever I've got like one of the things I have for my book is I have like a massive document that's bookmarks of people who have pointed out glitches on the ticker, right? Weird
Mm-hmm.
glitches. Like sometimes you're like,
We
what?
just had another one like a day ago with the $18,000
Yeah, right.
GameStop share.
Yeah. So like some of them are like phantom orders, definitely. There's definitely some like technical glitches or like I don't know things like picking up like limits that are set or there's probably explanations for like at least some of them, right? But then there's other ones I'm like, what the is going on? Like what the absolute fuck is going on? But like I wonder like how much of this would be seen in every ticker if there was 100,000 people staring at it.
Exactly. That's the thing. There's gotta be glitches and things happening in other tickers, but nobody looking for them. You know, someone might see that Apple showing it's at $1 share or something on their app in the morning,
Mm.
but if they post that online, six people are going to see it and care about it. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's probably glitched weird. But there's so many more instances of GameStop and these highly volatile stocks that just keep showing up like that,
yeah,
and a lot more frequently than most other companies,
yeah.
especially on the FTD side.
Yeah, on the FTD side is wild, but like on the other side of what I said, the thing that sort of makes me wonder is like right, okay, because we've got 100,000 people staring at this thing, right, and like investigating every tiny aspect of it. Um, do you think you would see loads of these? Like, do you think we would see like specters of evidence of really fraudulent practices across the entire market?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's like glitches and things that nobody's looking at that there's absolutely these fraudulent things happening. As far as like the synthetic shares and the naked short selling and thing like that, I think it goes millions of shares every day. And whatever is the most volatile, these market makers don't have to like even find those shares for 30 plus days to come up with them. So they create a liquid market for everyone and they just don't have those shares. They're just numbers on someone's computer somewhere that they have to come up with at what they're thinking is a later or a lower price in the future and taking the spread on that, which is unbelievable that that happens every single day. But I think it happens every stock. Like at the end of the day, you know, Schwab's going through their buys and sells and calling TD and seeing how many they can match with each other and going like that. And then whatever's left over on the buys and sells end up being like FTDs that they have to come up with in a certain amount of days, which we figured out they pretty much have no uh, like fines or anything like that for not coming up with them in a certain amount of time. And it's it's
Yeah.
insane how much
Yeah.
happens every day.
Yeah. And like Dr. Trimbath like walked me through how they can just continue to roll that on forever. Like the
Yep.
FTDs never really end up getting resolved in a lot of cases, which is like as someone who's like actively investing and like and managing other people's money, do you see all of this as opportunity, or does it terrify you that the market doesn't function based on seemingly any sort of justice or regulation?
It's it's honestly depressing. My father was an advisor since the day I was born. I've learned about it every day since then. My brother and I both become advisors right out of college. Like this is like our family business. And after everything that happened with GameStop, just to find out that the majority of it is all rigged and fake sucks. Because I still have such a passion for investing and looking for growing companies and everything. But it's all fake behind the scenes in this giant like scam all the way to the top of the government of Congress insider trading. Like 150 for convicted insider trading, and there's no fines or jail time for it. So why would anyone stop?
Yeah.
And they're getting all the fees under the table and knowing which stocks aren't going to be shorted to death and which ones are going to get the FDA approval and everything. And my job went from looking for growth opportunities for clients to trying to figure out what the corrupt people are going to get into and be on their side so you don't get wrecked. And that like sucks to think about investing that way, but it's so true. There's so many earnings reports where you probably see all numbers smash expectations and the stock drops 25%. And then you see during COVID, Disney revenue drops 93% and the stock goes up 10% the next day. And it's like, it's wherever those options market makers max pain is to not lose any money, the stock will go and they'll just deliver on the shares when they want to.
Yeah. Yeah, and you just reminded me. There's a fantastic website actually. Hang on, let me see if I can pull this up for people and for you. Uh, Although it might end up doubling it for you and the wrong thing. But hang on, I'll just show you anyway. Oh yeah, it's backwards for you. Sorry. um, so it does say for people watching anyway that Nancy Pelosi isn't actually the most successful trader at the moment in the House of Representatives. That would go to the Representative Brian Mast, who has 79% return. Wow, that is
Stellar.
yeah. I mean, it's like they're
That's
getting
almost as good as Citadel's 16% return in the worst year in history for stocks and bonds combined. Unbelievable.
it's just great
Did you
trading.
watch the new Madoff
Oh
documentary
no,
or the docuseries?
I have been putting it off. Is it good?
It's really good. And in one part, just like or this reporter that starts like investigating it, she just looking at the paperwork, like everyone is losing money in the .com bubble. Everyone. And he's making money still, like all successful trades. And she's like, what? And that's like and then when Citadel's numbers came out for their December 31st in like a month ago. So I'm just like, it's the same exact thing. It's literally the same thing. And nobody's questioning it. Well, hopefully they're behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But
I'm not
I don't
particularly
know.
optimistic about it. Like how again, you're in the financial world. Like how incompetent are the SEC? Like really?
Uh, very. I think if they do their job, they break the market. I think the market's it's going to be broken if they charge what they know is happening. Like Gensler probably got in there and he's like, "Oh my god, yeah, we can't tell the public about this or charge anyone because we'd have to charge everyone. We'd have to build a new government because everyone's insider trading and all the biggest market makers for liquidity have their side hedge funds that take the opposite side of every single trade. The biggest conflict of interest in financial history, and it happens every day. And did you see Dave Lauer's interview with Gensler like about 2 months ago or 3 months ago?
Yeah.
I emailed him right when it was happening, and he asked Gary a couple seconds later because they're talking about FTX. And I was like, I emailed Dave. I was like, ask Gary what the difference is between FTX having Alameda on the side and Citadel's market maker having Citadel's hedge fund on the side. And Gary just pivoted like nobody's business.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love to hear that. So the actually, you said something there that's really interesting, and I think people maybe don't quite get it all the time. What is it that allows market makers like Citadel? Like, what is the mechanism by which they're able to make money off of taking the other side of every trade because of their privileges as market makers?
So Citadel is also a market maker for options, which is just like outsized returns, and 99% of options like expire worthless or right at max pain. So if a stock has a massive drop or a massive gain on news, and a market maker is going to lose a ton of money on their option side, then their market maker trading side for stocks, they will just, if the stock is too high, they will just send all of the sell orders to the lit market, dropping, and then internalize all the buy orders, so there's no buying pressure. It's all happening behind the scenes between other companies. And so only the sells are hitting the market over and over again, or vice versa. If something drops 25% on earnings report, and Citadel's like, oh, we needed to go up 10%, they'll route the buy orders to the lit market and start triggering people's like limits, and then they'll just do all the sell orders internally. It's insane.
It just sounds so awful when people put it in plain terms. Every single time. And
Yeah, every single company too. It's not just GameStop and AMC and Bed Bath and Beyond. Like, someone has a scandal or something like that, and their stock drops 50%. Citadel's just going to route all the buy orders there so that they don't get murdered on all the puts that just made money.
like, how long has this been the way that market makers work? Like, did market makers are they an invention of the digitization of trading?
Yeah, that was a huge part of it. Like, you had to have like tons of orders come through where they couldn't really handle them just on the New York Stock Exchange or the Nasdaq Exchange, something like that. There's so many orders coming in that they needed someone to really like take the risk of these buy and sells if they had them on their books or not. And if it was realistic, nobody would probably take that gamble.
Yeah.
But there's probably special things put in place with SIPC and the Fed and all this stuff. Like, if shit goes wrong, then we're going to need backup for this. We're helping you with the liquidity. The ridiculously crime part came when they're allowed to have separate companies that are investing billions of dollars too. They have these special rules that nobody else on earth has for trading, and they get to see all the data that nobody can see and take the other side of the trades or know exactly where it's going. They know how many sell orders are set for tomorrow's opening bell on one stock, and if it triggers something massive, then Citadel will just go into their hedge fund and buy a bunch of puts on it. Just, it's ridiculous.
So
Just a money printing machine.
yeah, seemingly. I mean,
Right.
is this basically what you think has been going on with the price suppression with GameStop over the past 2.5 years?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's just, so you just think it's out and out like manipulation by people who are short on it.
Yeah, yeah, and the internalization of orders and the dark pools and all the stuff happening behind the scene on the buy side, and then GameStop's almost back down to where it was before its earnings, when it went up 50%. It's literally just a perfectly diagonal chart like this for like 2 weeks on like the 1 hour taper. It's just absolutely perfect size. Insane.
That's crazy. So then, what do you think the reason for that is? Because so, do you think it's just the fact that Citadel and some others are short GameStop, or do you think that it's like a more widespread structural, if this blows, the whole thing might blow sort of situation?
Yeah, way more of that. Like, we have the whole world's eyes on GameStop stock now after 2021. And if the crime gets found out, then other countries will call us on our exchange and our fake shares of everything. and just wipe out the US market.
Okay,
And
so you,
so, shorts, I still think there's, I mean, an ungodly amount of shorts that never covered and they're being put through swaps and everything like that. But it's more of a systemic issue. Like we figured out the crime. Now multiply this by every single stock that this is happening and realize that every other country probably has fake shares. We all have fake shares. They're all just numbers on a computer screen. When you think about it, since they're all the actual shares are held by Seed and Co., which is another insane part of this whole saga. But I can't find a single person on earth to tell me why there's a delay in trade settling. They're just digital numbers on the screen. There's no actual shares being traded. You don't have to mail them anywhere. It's T+3, T+2, and Gary's saying they're working on a T+1 settlement. Like, what are you talking about? You send crypto across the world in seconds. And they were even doing that with fake crypto, like buying them through the exchange and stuff like that. But yet stocks can't trade without a couple of days for them to just cherry pick the highest buys to the lowest sells in the background. There's no plumbing that needs that much. It's just you could literally send dollars on Venmo in 1 second now, but these just numbers on your screen of a ticker, you can't for days at a time because they need whatever's in the background to keep afloat.
so you don't buy, because I've heard people talk about the reason that there's a T+2 is that the plumbing that the whole system is it's like that it's built, it's like the way they like paint the picture is that it's this house with like Wi-Fi on the top floor, right? But then as you like go down the layers, like the next thing down, you've got maybe like dial-up modem, and you get like down another floor, and you've got like a phone, and then in the basement, it's like some guy on a telegram trying to get all the information that you need for the Wi-Fi on the top, right? But through like a like that's the picture that people paint, right? When they talk about why it has to be T+2. Are you saying that's bullshit?
It's complete bullshit. When we found out that Seed Co has all the shares of all the companies out there, the DTC or DTCC, and all of them are just like doing IOUs and circles. That literally solidified that all the shares on computers are fake. Like you either get a certificate or go through a transfer agent, a computer share, and get real shares in your real name, or else they're all just fake IOUs. And there's no reason those IOUs can't be sent like a text message or an email.
Mm.
They're not an actual product. They're just a number on a screen with a value. They should be able to be transferred, sold, bought in 100th of a second.
Mm. So, like, have you spoken to people in the industry about this? Like people who are, I don't know, mid to high level players, or people in regulatory agencies, or just other investors about this problem?
Oh yeah, I have one of my posts on the super stalking scroll back on mine is my letters to the SEC about GameStop being shorted over 100%. So like, can I get some? This is 2020, this is before the sneeze,
Yeah.
and I totally forgot all about it. I saw like a screenshot going back in photos forever ago. I was like, oh my god, I forgot I sent that email. They just never responded, and I posted it up a couple of months ago. And everyone's like, send them another one. I was like, perfect. And so I went to the SEC and I was like, sorry, I never heard back from you guys before GameStop went up 10,000%. But can you respond yet on what the short interest is and everything? And just respond. I've written letters. I think what Lauer's doing with everyone, like the amount of work he's putting in with the higher ups and lobbying and stuff like that, I just don't have the time. I'd love to like go join him in DC and start screaming at these corrupt people that are just doing this shit every single day. Um, but it becomes scary with my profession to go
Mm.
against these people. I've done a couple of things or posted about a couple of high up people where I'm like, I'll probably be assassinated tomorrow. And it's just like, I don't know how far to push that while, loving the business that I built. It's such a tough line. Like, I want the corruption to stop, but I don't want all of their eyes on me for no reason because they're like, shut this kid up.
Mm. Yeah, I mean it's and we're in a world now where like if you post on your social media, I am not suicidal, the CIA are planning to kill me, and then you die in mysterious circumstances days later, no one raises an eyebrow. Like even like
So scary.
did you see that there was one of the guy, the head of one of the crypto exchanges, like there was that string of like 3 4 of them that all died in really weird
Oh yeah,
circumstances. Yeah, then there was one of them
absolutely.
who literally said, "I'm being set up by the CIA, like they're gonna try and kill me," and then died.
Jeez, gotta give me chills.
Yeah,
So
sorry,
scary. Yeah,
sorry, man.
no, it's not, no, in like a funny way. It's nuts. Like, what are we gonna do about it? I've always said like the government's terrifying. Defense scares people on earth. But, like, what are you gonna do about it? They literally turned off the buy button, said fuck everyone, and everyone could yell and bitch and scream. Nobody got their money back. Nobody got anything. There's people. Oh my god, there's people on Wall Street bets right now that had all the FRC puts when, and now they can't get paid out on them on Robinhood. I'm like, oh, that's weird. You're still on Robinhood.
Yeah,
But
anyone's still on
no,
Robinhood.
you're not going to be able to do anything at the end of the day, especially against the government and stuff.
Mm,
It's all just swept under the rug.
yeah,
It's scary.
it's scary. Like one of the most disappointing things, actually, like, because I don't know, I'm always this optimist that thinks like, but if we just get the right people in there, they could fix it. Like, how fucked can it be? And and then, like, I don't know, I was looking at like the different people who've been running for who in the primaries in America on both sides of the aisle. So I was looking at, and like Biden going again. I was just like, oh god, okay, nothing's gonna happen there. So then I was like, right, okay,
No.
who like Republican side, anyone gonna come along and at least say anything that's not the status quo, especially when it comes to finance. And you go, it's
Yeah.
like, right, what are the options? Trump, okay, yeah, he stacked his cabinet with Morgan Stanley people. That's not happening, right?
Yeah.
Then Ron DeSantis, I was like, I don't know, man. He calls out some bullshit, and then fucking he's like considering
Ken
Ken.
joins him.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
my god. Please no. There's no fixing the markets if that happens.
Yeah, so yeah, the only one that I have hope for at the minute is RFK Jr., but he's definitely going to be assassinated. Uh, So, or he'll just be that. Well, I mean, they'll rig the primary. There's no way he gets things. They argued in court that they're allowed to rig the primary, so of course they'll rig the primary.
Exactly. Yeah, just the whole fake shares and keep less settlement just reminds me of the whole election where there's still all this stuff like we can't just have like a website like enter your social security number and vote right here done. Like it's counted, it's all, but I mean honestly there's still be conspiracies after that on
Yeah, I
well,
mean,
whose software is this and stuff like that. But
I
how
don't. Yeah,
can we go like days and days without counting votes and there's trucks of ballots missing? It's like still can't get a better way.
yeah. I mean,
No
man,
better way of doing this.
I often like look at you people in America with this, and I'm just like, it's actually it's the exact same thing with the fucking financial markets, right? I look at it and go like, the reason they haven't fixed it is because they can exploit it, right? Like, and I looked
Yeah.
at the chaos after the 2020 election, right? And I was like, well, at least now they'll do something about this. At least now they'll like, because the vote hacking stuff has been a problem for like decades, right? Since
Sure.
they did the big update, right, after the Bush Gore thing, and they've not funded anything since. The machines are old as shit. They're like ordering spare parts on fucking eBay, right? And that's not a joke either. You can go fucking look that up. If people are listening saying you're exaggerating. And I look at it and go, why didn't you just fix it? Like, fuck the machines, hire 10,000 people and just fucking count them 3 times. Like we do it
Yeah.
in the UK, we count everything by hand and nobody ever disputes an election.
We should just have everyone's country like officials count the votes for the other country. So it's like no conflict of interest. Like you guys count ours, we'll count yours. Our winners doesn't matter to your country, and I guess president would,
But then
for
who's
different
shipping? Who's
elections, stuff
shipping?
like
Where are you shipping the ballots? Who's shipping the
that.
ballots?
Right? Who gets them? What's the
Yeah,
conflict of interest there?
yeah. I'm always just like, just get like a 10,000 people, count them 3 times. You could afford it. It's got to be cheaper than the fucking machines, and
Yeah.
and even if it's not. Yeah. Anyway, so one of the things that I wanted to ask you about was through one of the themes that I keep seeing and constantly keep seeing since January 2020 or 2021 when I first sort of started noticing this. has been the endless stream of media articles that just mischaracterize the movement, call everyone racists and misogynists. There's been articles about how, GameStop is over, the short squeeze is done, forget GameStop, forget GameStop, forget GameStop. I don't know how many times I've seen that fucking headline.
Unreal.
Right? Like, do you think there's a genuinely coordinated media campaign against this stock?
Yes. One of the most genius things hedge funds as a whole have ever done was buy all the financial media companies so they can point any direction for something. I'm going to give you a round number right now, and I'm close, but I have no idea what the actual one is. But it's like 90% of the financial media companies out there are owned by hedge funds to be able to control the narrative. It's absolutely genius and totally manipulative, but they saw the opportunity when AOL came out and people are seeing news articles and stuff online a lot faster than just buying one magazine. And they went in and started buying them up.
Okay. I'm trying to get some figures here to see.
Trying to get some numbers.
Yeah, get some numbers here. This is really interesting because I hadn't considered the extent to which they maybe own the media.
It's massive.
Yeah, so
all the little ones like the street and Motley Fools, like just actual articles that aren't part of the company, like in the tiny wording at the bottom.
Yeah.
Seeking Alpha, dude, they're all owned by them.
Yeah, Motley Fool is the best one, like by far. It's just
Oh
like
my God.
Seeking
Dump
Alpha,
this stock.
or who was the most infamous one? It was like February 2021. Citron Research. They were like, we're gonna do like the 5 reasons why GameStop is gonna go to zero.
Oh no, that was 2020. That was like when his computer froze and stuff like that, and everyone hacked into his YouTube live stream. And that was when it was like at $16 or $18. The next day it was at like 25, and just, or maybe it was January, and it just lit up from there and just went up to 500 like right after that guy. He didn't talk for like a year. Let's see if ChatGPT knows the number.
I mean, that was my next port of call, but then I was like, it might be a bit out of date, but let's get the out of date figure. Apparently, according to recent analysis, hedge funds or private equity firms now control half of US daily newspapers. That's not what we want, but that is also interesting.
That's insane because that's all news. So there's 50% of all news is what that's saying, right?
Yeah. That's wild, isn't it?
That's nuts. Now they can go politics. They can post the ones like that they have in their pockets to the articles here instead of articles for XYZ candidate.
Yeah, Alden Global Capital, for example, they bought for £630 million Tribune Publishing, which includes the New York Daily News, Chicago Tribune, Baltimore Sun, and others. Wow, that's a lot of major fucking papers. And then you don't even include like people like that. I was just looking at the Washington Post, like they're not talking about them here, but like that's they're owned by Bezos. He's not exactly going to be, he's not exactly going to be screaming for, rigorous coverage of the financial press because probably many of these massive funds will have stakes in Amazon.
Yeah.
And if they tank, they'll start selling the stock off. And yeah, it's like the intertwined nature of it is so predatory. I never quite get over it. It's like,
yeah. I hate it. I was such an optimist person before this happened. I'm looking to just roll people's money. And now everything I see, I'm just like, oh, what crime happened there behind the scenes? Whether it's like an earnings report movement or any stock or anything, I'm just like, all right, who wrote this article for their own benefit? It sucks. I hate thinking like that. I don't know how to switch my brain back. But there's just so much crime that's been discovered where it's just everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult. It's like, because once you see, it's like, okay, so they're lying consistently about this stock that I actually know about.
Mm-hmm.
So what about all these other things that they're saying?
Yeah.
Are all of these just bullshit? Like all of them?
Yeah, they could put on all 15 of their news outlets that they have to go pro oil right before they know a surplus is coming in or Biden's going to start pumping out the reserves again and liquidating to drop the price. So they can just get bag holders at the top to get out of their positions or vice versa. They can do it anywhere for their advantage. Like I said, genius
Yeah.
move by buying them all up and creating these campaigns. It's nuts.
Oh, all this you can see the strings. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So to talk a little bit about then one of the biggest theories about how we might exit this system in some way, or how we might like get beyond it, right, has been the infinity pool DD, which was totally a joke and a meme until it wasn't.
Mhm.
um,
Yep.
Sort of morphed into like the DRS campaign, and computer share. Now, I've spoken to some people who don't think that that's the way forwards, and I haven't quite understood yet. But I'm waiting on some responses about why that is. But to me, it looks like the mechanism by which it might be possible to expose the extent to which synthetic shares exist for this stock, right? And then
Mhm.
possibly, get the ball rolling for further investigations.
Absolutely.
Do you think the DRS campaign that's a possibility? Like, do you think this is a good idea?
Yes. We used to have, I mean, every financial advisor has jokes about having to deal with computer share clients, like rolling in their shares from their great grandmas like 10 years ago. And how I used to just say computer share just only uses fax machines and typewriters and stuff at their company headquarters. And now it's like the tool to put investors' names on their shares, just like a certificate or but digital, and to give GameStop that info on their quarterly earnings or whatever they really ask for it to have it all on their book. And the fact that a quarter of 75 million shares have been pulled out of the system has, I wouldn't say proven, but it has been proven wrong that the liquidity and the shares traded per day in the market has gone down significantly with the DRS campaign. I mean, the volume per day, last week we had like three of the top 10 lowest,
Yeah,
or 2 weeks
yeah,
ago, one of those two.
yeah. I
Like
was
it was
looking at
just
your
lighting up
Twitter
the
thread
chart
actually.
every day. Yeah. And so it's proven to, well, it hasn't been proven wrong, to lower the volume in this stock. And then after the earnings, all the crime comes out again and it trades 50 million shares flat like this all day for the options makers theta game. Just crush the volatility of the stock didn't move with 50 million shares traded. I mean, at the time it was like 25 times the volume of the week before when it was only trading 2 million shares a day. And the stock like just didn't even move doing that. Uh, Computer shares DRS, I can't find a way that it won't work without crime. Obviously, we know what the crime is every single day. But if there is no crime behind the scenes, then it should make sense to everyone that once the shares are gone, they choose their price. It's like real supply and demand, the way the market should function with these huge bid asks. The whole market maker structure where they're raking in billions to provide infinite liquidity and now everyone can trade for free. It's so good. But I like take it back to the wide spreads. Everything trades like a cent away on the bid ask. But if it was a real market and someone was willing to sell their Apple share at 110 and the next buyer's at 100, there's a $10 spread. That it's a free market. Like that's a massive spread, but it's one of those two has to make a decision on it, on what they want to do. And at least it's like a real order, a real market between two parties.
Yeah, I mean, like, when is that a possibility? Like, do you think that because the whole time that I end up discussing these sorts of topics, and the whole way through this conversation, like, I wonder to myself, like, is it actually possible to get to a place where we could have like a fair and free and open market in the way that like if there are buyers, there are buyers. If there are no sellers, there are no sellers. Like because it just seems like we have a market where that doesn't exist like at
Correct.
all. Like it and it's really really weird to like get your head around, right? That like you're the most of the buy and sell orders put on the exchange that like are processed on the exchanges are
Mhm.
not between two parties, one of whom wants to buy a stock and one of whom wants to sell. Like there's a
Correct.
load of different intermediaries, whether that's like market makers, whether that's hedge funds, whether that's like high frequency trading like
Mhm.
outfits. It's so strange that that's how we've arrived at. Like, is there a way to get back from that? Do you think?
Uh, yes, but you're gonna have to take everyone down at the top. And you have to convince everyone making billions of dollars with this scheme to not like money anymore. You have to convince 150 insider traders in Congress, like, hey, you guys need to stop liking money. We're going to do what's right. Like, how is it going to happen? Like, you have to convince all the people that make up the rules and run the country to not like money anymore and to do the right thing. I
Hmm.
don't know. I don't know how it happens. The one theory I did on or I explained pretty in depth on an AMA I did was another country is going to have to call us out on it. And once that happens, it's going to be anarchy for the US market. Like, we need the EU, China, Russia, be like, your market's completely fake and all synthetic. Boom. And they're gonna be like, oh, well, all right, guys, we gotta start looking into it and finding out who we're gonna throw under the bus for all this stuff.
Hmm.
And I think that's realistically because of how many people are making money off this at the top. That's the only way it's gonna happen. Like,
Are the
we need
other
another country to
is the
go
US
ahead.
uniquely horrendous in this sense? Because the financial industry is kind of borderless in a way. Like I can't think of places where aside from maybe like some northern European nations where regulation would be stricter than the United States.
The strictness with like the SEC and FINRA go towards all the little players. Like, I would get fined the same from FINRA as Citadel would. Like, we'd both like get a $50,000 fine for something, and theirs would be on something they made $500 million on, and mine would be for like a wrong signature or something. And so FINRA and the SEC can't take down. I don't think it's all theoretical. Can't take down these big people that are running everything. So they keep themselves in the public's eye by still just busting these other small outfits or charging them. You know, the SEC goes after Kim Kardashian and Chuck E. Cheese coins instead of like actual crime. And it's like, oh, we busted another $1 million scheme, but JP Morgan just manipulated the precious market or the precious metal market for like the 19th time in a row. And they got a $2 million fine. It's just batshit crazy. There's no regulation at the top. I do think, I mean, there's obviously crime in other countries' markets going on, but there's also a lot of countries that have like banned short selling and banned certain types of transactions where this shit keeps happening. And that's a perfect way to start. I don't think we necessarily have to ban short selling, but I think if there was like lit fair markets, then you wouldn't need short selling to drop the price if someone's like a corrupt company. That's how like that's always their side on debates for why short selling is good is because it finds out crime in different companies and everything. Like, no, just find out the crime and everyone will sell it. Like, on a lit market, it'll go down to where the next buyer is having a corrupt company. You don't need short selling to run an efficient market.
No. Although
It
like
would
I
just
mean
be a low stock price for a company that's shady or doing wrong things.
yeah. I mean the what yeah the I do there's like a tiny part of me right that kind of gets the argument, right, that if it wasn't fraudulent and full of synthetic shorting and naked shorting, that you could make the case that if you're able to like go long on a stock, you should be able to go short on it. And I kind of like
Mm-hmm.
if the market was legit, I get that, right?
For
That doesn't
sure. Yeah,
seem
I
like it
short
is.
stocks too, and I
Yeah,
short companies like when the banks were going and stuff. Um,
till they,
but
till they made that illegal.
yeah, no, they took away the sell button instead of the buy
Oh,
button.
yeah. Or well, no, in 2008 they made it illegal to short sell
Oh
bank
yeah. Oh,
stocks.
that's what you're talking about. I thought you were talking about when all the sell buttons disappeared on the banks and stuff as they were imploding a couple months ago.
No,
There's a
no,
bunch of
it's that.
screenshots from that. I'm like, weird. Robinhood still does that.
Yeah, Robinhood. Yeah, Robinhood should. Anyone still investing should not be with Robinhood. But yeah, so I found several several articles from one from 2020 and one from 2022 where JP Morgan Chase have been accused of manipulating the precious metal market.
Oh my god,
They paid
that's
in
so funny.
2020 they paid what, $920 million fine. I wonder on
Made a big one.
what profits. But then the US government
Exactly.
or the Fed consistently, manipulates the gold markets. Um,
Yeah.
and uses that to attempt to intervene in every other market in the world and is totally allowed to do that according to their own laws, which is fucking bonkers. Uh,
That's
yeah, yeah. Stuart Engler really blew my mind on that. He's from I can't remember the name of the company now. Some gold company, some gold like watch people. It'll come back to me. I'll put the link in the description for people who want to see So then moving on. So you think the DRS campaign should hopefully, like theoretically, if it comes to the conclusion that we all hope for, which is like nothing left on the free market, right? Then theoretically we get to this point, and then do you think it's a feasible or even realistic possibility that the NFT marketplace could be used as a proxy in order to attempt to exit the New York Stock Exchange and the DTCC and trade their
it's totally
shares?
possible.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
realistic do you think it is? So like just like a little bit of like, okay, we got to give it a little bit of hopium to
Yeah.
get through this conversation, right? But like in theory, can you see Ryan Cohen deciding to take that gamble?
Yes, if there's nothing done about this, like say the float gets locked up, it will depend on what the regulators do and what the stock price does to determine if Cohen would take it off exchange. Like if they let it fly, that's right,
Mm.
to the moon, then there's no reason for it. But if they hold trading and do all their bullshit background stuff, then I think it's completely realistic that he steps in or the whole team, to protect their shareholders at that point and says, okay, you guys want to do anything about it? We will.
Yeah. I mean, we all hope that will happen. Um, do you see that being the future of a better financial system? Like, do you see it being like blockchain based in some sense?
Yeah, I think that's an amazing way to do it. I think it's going that way for sure. I mean, the Fed's already, or not the Fed, the Treasury's already talking about the digital dollars and being able to track everything that way. I think
Mm.
wallets and journals and everything on the blockchain for stocks is completely realistic. I don't think any of the crime in Wall Street wants that to happen. So they'll just stay at T plus whatever they want until it happens. But it's perfect. We instant trades 24/7 against real buys and real sells. And it's not just logical, it would just work better. But it
Yeah.
would make them billions less at the top, the market makers and the high frequency trading
Mm.
and uh, all of the brokerages too that are holding them. They're using most of that money on just lending out, kind of like a bank does with any of the cash inside of the accounts for lines. But they would all implode on revenue, everything, and I'd be managing wallets. That'd be sweet. It'd be way cooler. So I didn't have to deal with any brokerage or different exchanges that my orders are going to go through the clients.
Yeah. I mean, that's the dream, really. Like,
Yeah.
do so there's that as a possibility, but do you think that that is Ryan Cohen's plan? Like, do you, because right, okay, and do you think he's encouraging the DRS campaign? Because like there's a lot, there's been, right, there's like there's hints we can look at in like the prospectus or some of the filings or some of his tweets or some of the comments he's made. You can like look at the companies he's partnering with, like Loop Ring or Immutable X. You can like draw inferences from the things that they're doing. But do you think that's their actual plan, or is it just the NFT marketplace?
Um, I don't think it's Ryan Cohen's plan to create like blockchain exchanges for stocks.
Yeah.
I think Ryan Cohen likes to build companies and work his ass off and make it profitable. He just succeed in every single thing. That was probably the most surprising earnings report I've ever seen. Like I like jumped off my couch. Like I didn't think the numbers were real on the profitability and the cash on hand and everything. Like that, just an absolutely nuts turnaround. I kind of expensive. I think that's what he likes to do. I think he's got that building type of mind where he's going to be still a big part of GameStop's adapting profitability and going forward with the NFT space and digital and everything. But he also wants to look at another company that he can really just rebuild again with getting the crime out of there and the overpaid execs and just hire people that work at a company to do it. I think he's more focused on making GameStop money than he is on doing like wrecking the stock market, I should say, like getting rid of all the exchanges and going against the crime to get it to blockchain. Everything. I think he's just an incredibly successful business builder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's great to see someone actually attempting to make something of a company, instead of just viewing it as a husk for the exploitation of the financial system. It's
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's beautiful. I mean, that's what it's meant to be. That's why people invest
Yeah,
in things. You know, like it's sometimes I'm
yeah,
like talking about this stuff, being like, oh, it's amazing. It's like that's just how it should be. Like with all of
exactly.
the
Just entrepreneurialism.
I remember it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember. Well, I don't remember the time. I remember hearing about the time when that was the norm.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No kidding.
yeah,
People building companies. I also think like he has left a ton of like clues and stuff over the years, whether it's DRS and computer share tweets and stuff like that,
okay. So you think he's on board
on
with that bit?
ways. Yeah, I don't see why anyone wouldn't be. You know, having shareholders in their own names, getting these certificates, buying company gear. I'm totally on board with it. I don't see any downside at all to the entire movement. Yet there's still articles coming out and fake bots on Twitter and Supersonic that say it takes this many days to do cells and stuff like that when really cells are like instant at a limit that you want as long as the market's open and stuff. And there's still so much fake news out there that I don't see any downside to computer share, except for buying because you wouldn't know what the price is going to be. Like buying direct in 3 days when the order goes through. You know, GameStop could be at 15 or could be at 25
Yeah,
3 days from now, so you won't get certainly close. But with a lot of average numbers, you have a 50-50 chance to get it cheaper or more expensive based on that.
yeah. Okay, so right, I got two more questions for you, and then I'll let you back to your evening. And they're shortish. This is something I've been trying to do and get people to do, like unashamedly copying Lex Friedman because he's a fantastic interviewer. But could you steel man the argument to not change the financial system?
Could I? What's
A
steel
steel man,
man?
a steel man is so like, do you know what a straw man argument is? Is a steel man is basically, can you give the best possible like argument in favor of not like changing the way the stock market operates?
Take the contrarian view.
Yeah,
Why to keep it the way it is? Okay, my best argument would be to not have it implode and wreck tens of millions of Americans' retirement accounts, 401k pensions, stuff like that. That'd be my best argument for not fixing the entire system.
yeah, yeah. That seems to be the. I mean, that's the problem. Like it's like that scene in The Big Short. You know when when the two guys, that is it the Brownlee brothers? Is it the Brownlee brothers or Brownlee Capital? I can't remember the two brothers that are like
Yeah,
short stuff. I can't remember
working
what
on
they.
the drawing and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Garage Band Head Fund, um, they they're like they've just like sold they've just shorted a bunch of like mortgage bonds, and they're
Mhm.
like walking through the casino with Brad Pitt's character, and they're like fucking dancing, and he's
Oh
like,
yeah.
stop celebrating. If this happens, it'll be the worst crisis in like modern American history. People will die, people will lose their homes, people will go
Yeah.
hungry, people will starve, people will not get medical attention. Like, and it's really awful to imagine the consequence, or to imagine the scenes that we will face if the reckoning of justice ever reaches the financial system. It's terrifying and like obviously what we want, but also terrifying at the same time.
Exactly. It's so hard. Like, it's not our fault they did all these things wrong and created this massive problem.
Mm-hmm.
But they're literally going to unload the dog shit on retail investors before it happens. They're going to put it on to everyone else. Like my whole conspiracy a couple of days ago on Twitter of JP Morgan probably sold First Republic all those long duration bonds, convinced them to order. I'm like, these are so good, just buy all these and we'll take you over 95% off in a couple of months. Like, they're just going to unload the stuff onto the public. They'll all be out of the trades before it happens, but there's going to be so many people that lose everything. But I'm still in favor for the fair market and for all the corruption to end. I think if another country calls us on it and all of it comes out of the fake synthetic shares and these infinity amounts, that the market's going to go down 80+%. Like, the buyers down there and stuff, but I think it's what needs to happen. It has to burn and be rebuilt. I don't think they can just tiptoe out of what they've created.
Yeah, yeah, probably not. I mean, seemingly at least anyway. But they'll still all try and make for the border with their pockets stuffed full of cash. Hopefully, some of them go to jail. That would be nice.
That'd be amazing.
Prosecution.
That's all it would take to stop a lot of this stuff. Like,
Yeah,
every time JP Morgan messes with the metals market, the CEO goes to prison. Like, I bet they don't do it next year, but it's fine. If they are continuing to do crime and continue to be fined for it, that means they're making way more money than the fines are, or they
yeah,
would do it
yeah,
again. And I think prison time would be a whole different story for a lot of stuff on Wall Street.
yeah. You got to find these companies so much money though, because like I remember it was like Facebook got fined 500 million, I think it was, by the EU, and their stock price went up. They got fined 500 million, and the stock price went up because they had set aside more than that for the fine. So the fact they were only fined 500 million or so, whatever it was some obscene number, right? Was the stock price went up because the investor was like, oh, hey, we got some spare cash lying around now.
It's been backwards world since COVID. And it's like the worst an earnings report was, the higher up the stock price would go the next day. And
Yeah.
it's just
This
been backwards
this was actually
for everything.
pre-COVID. I think this was 2018. Anyway, final question. So, what do you think of the apes?
They're one hell of a strong movement. I mean, there's so many of them. And I love that there's this many people on the internet that can share information this fast about corruption and lies and manipulation. And they literally get online to show the world the corruption that's happening behind the scenes. And so they should keep it up. It's been the rise is not over. We're gonna have to expose the corruption forever. But I love all the people that are trying to bring it into the light and try and do the same thing I'm doing without saying too much. I have to be so vague on some things to be compliant on Twitter or Reddit or stuff like that. But all these apes, they can just go nuts pun intended, and just say whatever they want, and they're not going to get in trouble for compliance reasons for clients, stuff like that. But just keep bringing the heat on the top.
Yeah. Get yourself a few burner accounts, man.
Yeah, I need to. I don't know how to work VPNs and stuff strong enough to be able to do that.
True. True.
Someone will find it. Just
Oh.
like Keith losing his licenses.
Did he lose his
So,
licenses?
oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he got fired and lost his licenses. I want to say it's before his hearing, like when Mass
Really?
Mutual or Washington, whoever he was with right then. Yeah, he was. I mean, he didn't care. He's got like $40 million that week, but
Yeah.
uh, still, that just sucks because he was really just posting data, and numbers and talking hype, but
Yeah, fucking here it is. Roaring Kitty no longer has a financial broker license. March 2021.
yeah, that's right. Right when it was like hearing was over.
MML Investor Services filed the termination request, stating an internal review of his outside activities was ongoing. A spokesperson for Mass Mutual. Oh my word. That's so
You've never seen
sad,
that?
man. No,
I
I don't know. I
know.
don't know how I've
I
missed it.
know.
Man, there's so many bits to this story. Like, I know what's going to happen when I bring the book out. There'll be 10,000 comments being, well, maybe not 10,000, 10 comments being like, you missed this, you forgot this, you didn't mention this. And I'll be like, bro, have you seen the subreddit? There's no way I could talk about everything.
Exactly.
I'm trying to stay real
There's so much
focused.
on there.
I barely mentioned AMC. I'm not going to mention BBBY. Like, there's too many things. I have to focus.
No, I know, right? You just branch out onto the different ones.
Yeah.
There's too much going on
Like, I tried.
every single day with just GameStop. That yeah, there's so much data out there. You wouldn't be your book would be just ongoing forever.
Yeah. My
With
first
new
book
stuff
was a
coming out.
my first book was a sprawling mess. So I'm determined to not make this the same.
It'll be good. We got to do another private call with me, and I can put some stuff in your book that I can't necessarily put out to the public right here that will just blow your mind on the GameStop saga.
Okay,
And
well, we can
yeah,
definitely talk about doing that. Okay.
and then if you record that one, I'll send it to my lawyers and see if it's possible to put out there or not. I'm going to guess no chance, but
Okay.
at least you'll have it for non-named things in the book.
Okay. Well, do you want to? Right. Well, then, let's say thank you to everyone for listening, and thanks to you, man, for
Appreciate
joining
it.
me. It's been such a fun chat.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been awesome.
No problem. And I'll send you a copy of the book when it's out. So yeah, so
Perfect.
we can keep recording and we can decide now, and then you can decide. I'll clip the bit out and send it to you, and you can see if your lawyers say it's possible to put it online or not. Hey everyone, thanks for making it right the way to the end of the podcast. I love that you tuned in this long. Do me a favor, hit subscribe, because 80% of you bastards are not subscribing, but you're watching my videos. See you next time.